So last but not least, there is our presenter, Dominic Sibrek. I would like to say hello to Dominic. How are you? Oh, actually, we have two presenters. I'm sorry. Welcome, Rachel, as well. Of course. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing good.
Let me please just check if we hear each other. Very good. Just please say a few words to make sure everything is okay.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, excellent. I can hear you. Dominique, can you?
Yes, I'm here too. Hello.
Oh, okay. All is great. All seems to be great. So yeah, welcome among us. So yes, the last topic, the future of cyber attacks and why awareness plays a key role. So please, Dominique and Rachel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to the conference. I think it was really great up until now. Rachel and we wanted to give you some insights and thoughts about the future of cybercrime. What could be the risks? What could be the problem with it? Because you have presentations with excellent hackers here at your conference, so we wanted to bring another aspect in terms of how is it going with the attacks and how basically we see the world. So I will hand over to Rachel now, and she will start with the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Dominique. So first of all, just an overview of some of the things we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about the players in cyber attacks of the future, players, all the hackers and the amplifiers, the people who make the attack bigger, and we'll also be talking about the environment that makes the attack more than it is. Dominique would break this down in words.
So also we thought about, isn't it a bit the same as like IP addresses and naming? So IP addresses are for machines and names are for people, and the same is within the IT. One of the big problems, you can't really see behind the technology, what's happening. That's become very complex. So today we will talk like in the human language, bring you these topics closer. So we will talk about what we call the cyberverse economy, also about ransomware as a service, cybercrime as a service, of course, which is playing a strong role in the risk. AI and deepfakes, we'll touch on that one. Then what we call is like tipping the scales or changing the scales. A bit of cyber philosophy, of course, then supply chain attacks, which are on the rise, as we know. And what is actually the strongest link, or how can you enforce the strongest link? I will proceed now to a build-up you might have seen and talk about the players. What are the players you are facing with cybercrime? What are they doing? What are their capabilities? And you might remember there was in the past like a so-called hacker hierarchy. I think that was a good start in terms of, okay, I'm preparing myself, let's say, for APT groups, or I'm preparing myself getting attacked or hacked by nation states, for instance. So with this graphic, it's really about the players, what they are, where they play in the cyberverse economy, and what they actually do. So at the very end, we of course have the 404 Vilo, who helped you log on. Then we go into the script kiddie, whistleblower, cyberbully. So you move your way up this scale, and of course at the top right corner you have groups or risk or threats which have a lot of resources at their hands and also have a lot of assets, but also combined with a lot of knowledge and sophistication, because it's important. You need to have both of this area fully developed, so you become a credible threat actor. So of course we have APT groups, just followed by nation states, but only through proxy. You will never hear a nation state actually committing an attack or kind of admitting they have attacked. Then transnational crime, information warfare plays up in this area. And so these are like the hacker groups. You have to keep an eye on them, what the development is on the market and what they do. But of course, as usually, it's not that simple. So we took that whole cyberverse economy a bit apart. What we have additionally is also what we call amplifiers. So if you're a player in this area, you will use amplifier, of course, to move laterally on this chart. An amplifier is, for instance, you're using money mules. This would give you more resources and more assets, for instance. You're using DDoS attack. This would increase basically organization and alliances and would make you as a player stronger. So with the option, of course, you could move to the top right corner of the chart we have previously seen. Or you're using exploit kits or malware developer, of course, if you can get your hands on a cryptologist, that could also help you move and expand your knowledge and sophistication situation. So that's also the danger, because this you can buy. You can buy at the market. You can buy what we see here, top right, cybercrime as a service, which is an enabler, which will move you as maybe, I don't know, a small or mediocre hacker into another sphere for attacking, for instance. So these are the amplifiers. Then, of course, you have the environment you're working in or cyber criminals are working in, which is also contributing to a bigger threat. So there is, in some areas, non-regulation. There is inferior software with a lot of bugs, 0 days, etc. There is high complexity in systems. There is a fight with the over jurisdiction of cybercrime, which is actually enabling the cyber criminals even more. And also there's a problem with accountability. So in the end, you have here basically the complete picture of how this is working. So how you use this, of course, you first look at the players. You look how you can prevent them from attacking you and in what ways they might attack you. But also, if you work in law enforcement, if you cut out amplifiers or if you eliminate amplifiers, for instance. So if you eliminate, for instance, the first quantum computer, that would also prevent future crimes. If you would eliminate 0 days, of course. If you would eliminate cybercrime as a service, you would take away amplifiers or enablers for players or cyber criminals. You would make them less effective and would make them less accountable for it, of course. So that's the picture you can work as a CISO, or also to project where your future risks might come, or where are you actually focusing your resources, of course. That's a small start into the cyberverse economy. I will now hand back to Rachel. No, that's sorry. That's one from me again. Just the classic ransomware picture, so also enhancing the risk profile for your company. So you had authors, owners, which were creating products, which then sold their products on the marketplace, and you had operators using those products, attacking targets. Certain targets. At the bottom, you see the money flow. Money flows from the targets through Tumblr mixer services to kind of distinguish your path from the money laundering, so you cannot follow it, flowing back to the operators. But what clearly can be seen is this so-called cybercrime as a service and the respective development with it. So you see the same thing. You have products which are created by author or owners. Then there's no marketplace anymore. It's now called a service portal. There are no operators anymore. They're now called affiliates. So this all moves the players in different direction and makes it harder to get hold on them, because author owners have moved back. It's now more difficult to find them. They have less risk, but more reward, for instance. But also affiliates can be better controlled, because if you have a bad reputation, we just saw that recently with some studies about ransomware payment and if files actually get decrypted or not, you can control the affiliates in this scheme. So if they are not good affiliates, if they're not reputable, you can take the service away from them. So this is the complete development into cybercrime as a service area, which then, of course, makes it so much easier for a script kiddie to obtain these services through monetary means and apply it in the wild. So that's why we have more attacks, more maybe sophisticated attacks by less sophisticated groups, actually. So that was just also part of the problem and the risk profile for the cyberverse. Now, Rachel is going to talk to you about artificial intelligence and deepfakes and what the problem with them is.
Thank you, Dominic. Definitely, we can talk about the future of cyber attacks without talking about AI and deepfakes. If you're a fan of some of these movies on Netflix, like Black Mirror and Love, Death and Robots, they're all talking about AI and the possibilities of the future. And so definitely we can't talk about the future of cyber attacks without looking into AI. Deepfakes. Now let's talk about deepfakes for a bit. Deepfakes are basically audio, video, and image files that can be manipulated to look real using AI. So the term deepfake actually originated in 2017, but before then there were a couple of manipulated videos using different kinds of technology, and by 2019, people noticed that there were a lot of deepfake videos out there, and because of that, companies like Facebook in 2020 decided to ban them off because a lot of people were different like these. So in this slide, we're just trying to show, okay, obviously in hacking, in attacks, they use different kinds of technologies, malwares, ransomware, exploit code, and they have technologies like cloud, AI, and deep fakes. And now looking into social engineering, which is usually the start of a major attack, the social engineering happens via emails, phones, in person, and they're taking advantage of AI and deepfakes and exploit codes to carry out the social engineering attacks now, which makes it more severe. And so there was even an account of someone who used a fake video of a CEO to facilitate a huge transfer of funds from a company because it sounded like the CEO's voice. And so social engineering attacks are being facilitated with these deep fake videos and pictures and audio, and it's a serious thing that should be looked into. So next slide, please. Just showing you the risk profile of social engineering attacks. Risk for social engineering is usually low because people are a little bit vulnerable to social engineering attacks. So, and it's easier than other attacks to carry out. The risk of getting caught is lower, and the production cost, it doesn't take a lot of technology to carry out social engineering attacks. So the production costs are obviously low, but the rewards can be very high if a social engineering attack is successful, as we've seen. Most of the major attacks we've slide, please. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you for a few seconds. Now it's okay. Now you are back. Hopefully everything is okay. Dominic is not with us anymore. So, but please continue.
I just stopped the video because I thought of the bandwidth problem.
Okay. Rachel, please continue.
Okay, so speaking about the risk profile of malware 0 days, the risk is also low. The production costs can be high or low with cybercrime as software because these things are being offered as services on the dark web, the reward can be high as well if it's successful, because they usually target huge companies and the effect can be really severe. And next slide. Okay, in this slide, we're looking at the development or the history of AI and deepfakes. The very first successful deepfake video that was produced was in 1997 with a video rewrite. And that video rewrite, it wasn't, looking at it now, you can tell it was fake. But after that, there was the face-to-face used to manipulate a live video on YouTube, which looked a little better than video rewrite video. In the next slide, we'll see more about that. But moving on to the more popular one was a video that was synthesized of Obama in 2017. And now all these ones in the past were being manipulated by specialists and researchers, but now we have applications like Lyrebird, which everyone has access to. They can use to manipulate audio and video. And so you can see that the more people have access to this, the more damage that can be done. So in the next slide, let's just take a look and compare between the video rewrite version and the face-to-face version.
Unfortunately, we don't hear the voice of the video.
Yeah, you can hear that one, I guess. Yeah. So here is just, you see JFK video lip sync. So it's just focusing on the lips and resyncing it. And of course, the material back then, 97, was not that advanced. So they used the model actually to do the lip syncing. And then the area around the mouth was replaced with the lip syncing model. It was, quite at the beginnings of these deepfakes, but they were like the milestone of starting with the deepfake on the basis of video, for instance. So the model was then trained, the words could be replaced. JFK was saying interesting words, you couldn't hear that because the video it's not going through. So that was like basically the area of video rewrite. Then we have a quick look, of course, at face-to-face. Face-to-face was already or is already much more. That was the big advancement. So you can like your model on the left accordingly, and then you can use your model basically, and they have already a very much higher quality of video, which of course makes it then more difficult to being actually detected. So there were different areas and also comparisons about the technology. So always like with the source actor, target actor, and then of course you will have the reenactment results, and all of this in real time, which is becoming the real threat here. So it's not like you do some changing or a video, of course it's the same, but at the same time also techniques are developing for detecting deepfakes, but it's still very hard to see the differences. So here on this picture you actually see what are the differences and if they would be detectable. Of course, as a person, you might be able, but in the near future, you will not be able to detect if some video footage or even maybe a talk or a chat you have with the person is a deep fake. So you need technology to actually detect the deep fakes, which are nowadays have been used. Here you can see a little bit the differences with the teeth, with the edges of the mouth. Of course, what's also generally known is that the deepfakes, which have a lower quality, are easier to detect than deepfakes at a very high quality. So I will give back to Rachel now.
Thank you. So in the next slide, we talk about change blindness. Change blindness is basically a phenomenon that proposes that people wouldn't tend to notice certain changes. Like if an object is moved in this picture, there's a possibility that people will notice the change. So we're going to do a small exercise and see if we notice the change.
When someone sees the change, you might just put it in the chat. I've seen it. And we can get some feedback from the audience.
There's a comment from our audience. It says, Tomasz Ziemnik says, license plate.
Yes, perfect.
Yes. We'll try another one.
Okay, thanks.
Let me show the second one.
I guess this one was harder, so I haven't seen any neither. There's no clues from the audience as well. So
it's bottom right corner, the women with
yes, the woman with the baby.
Okay, thanks.
So here's it was the women with the baby and the plate. You're right.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
So basically, change blindness just explores our visual attention, and everything you see on the screen is a set of pixels. Mind gives you an interpretation of what those pixels mean. So I would be handling deepfakes in the next slide. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's interrupting you, so we are losing you here and there, but it's okay now.
Okay, so what to do about these things? Obviously, you have to learn more about deepfake technology and the progress that's being made. It will help you to be able to identify it better. And like Dominique said, we might not be able to identify it by ourselves, and we might need other kinds of technology to help us in the future, because these things are getting better every day. Number two, you need to pause if someone requests an action. Consider the timing, because usually these attackers, when they send out these kind of videos, it's urgent. So consider the timing and the purpose and appropriateness of the request. If you've been working in a company and you've never received such a request before from, say, your boss or the CEO, and it looks suspicious or it sounds suspicious, then you should pause and try to look for someone to ask about this request. Also, like Dominique said, poor quality of videos are easier to spot than better quality ones, and there are better quality ones out there right now. But if you notice some blinking, no blinking, and some flickering around the edges of the face, which is a characteristic of the poor quality made deepfake videos, or strange reflections in the irises, or a voice that sounds a little too robotic, and background noise that covers up imperfections, then these are pointers that this is not an original video. And well, obviously, if it comes by a phone call, the best thing to do is hang up and call the person back. Next slide, please. So, like I mentioned, this is just the summary of the example. The CEO of a UK-based energy firm they created an audio file, a fake audio file of him using deepfake technology, and they were able to they were able to ask him for funds, and it was successful. That was the first attack in 2019, and they were able to get 220,000 euros from the company. And so these are definitely threats we need to look out for in the coming times as cyber attacks progress in the future. I would hand over to Dominique now to talk more about cyber defense and cyber criminals.
Okay, thank you very much, Rachel. I think this is really important and has also been a turning point for myself and my clients. I mean, it's not a theory we're talking about. This attack, voice-based attack, still actually happened, and money was transferred. It was like you need about 5 seconds of someone's voice, so it becomes a credible threat. And of course, it becomes a credible threat in terms of like information warfare, for instance, with this deepfake technology. So there's more to come in the future. I will just now quickly go through with you like what's the tipping the scales mean and what you may be setting your focus on. So you have, of course, like a cyber defense side, and you have a cyber criminal side. With this elephant of cybercrime as a service, I believe that the scales have quite moved to the other side in favor of cyber criminals. And of course, if you look at the bear in the middle, he's the law. It's okay. He's going into the right direction. He's slow, he's heavy, but he's not an elephant. And now with artificial intelligence, it will really also change the landscape in terms of risk and also in terms of attacks or future attacks. If artificial intelligence is, in my view, not going to be regulated in some way or form, or if there is like easy detection technology available or will be made available, for instance, then it can tip the scales even more in favor of the cyber criminals, I guess. So I would really like to take AI, put that hippo down onto the side of cyber defense and make it work for us, cyber defense side, I guess. And then it will tip the scale in towards the cyber defense side. Of course, as always, if your old CISO is a slot, it might not work. So get yourself a new CISO, young, aspiring woman, and all the other elements. You know, we have areas jumping to cybercrime side, but also we have folks coming over to the good side, not the dark side, I guess. And everywhere you have monkeys and some chickens which have no weight but make a lot of noise in this area. So this is just like an analogy of risks and future risk and how even political decision might change the landscape in this area. I do think in the favor of time, we will move now to some questions. We had also some supply chain attack, as you know, with SolarWinds. here is the area of if you are not able to hack a particular point or always want to hack the endpoint, the user, for instance, or the company or the laptop, you might just go back in the supply chain. Of course, you can go back to factory level. We see this, for instance, in production of electronics, which electronics never reaches the vendor. It gets to a warehouse, for instance, here in Europe. All the parts are getting assembled there and then moved out worldwide. So you would never know if that firmware on this specific electronic component has been changed or compromised, has a couple of kilobytes more. So really important to look at the supply chain from that perspective. And of course, at the end, it's the human. The human needs to be most important. Is you have to educate with awareness you people. I think with this, we would now also like to take some questions from you, to Rachel or myself. Let's see if we can see them in the chat, or if you can just announce yourselves and ask some questions you might have.
Yeah, let's wait for questions from the audience if there are any. So yeah, this is incredibly interesting topic. We actually were losing you from time to time. However, we got the message, which is how extremely advanced technology nowadays is, and of course, as you have mentioned, it's going to be even improved in the future, which is great in terms of technology. However, on the other hand, there is a question if there are criminals with no good intentions. So yeah, maybe there's going to be issues on the courts in case of proving well, whether this is whether we're talking about deepfake or not. So what's your opinion about that?
I think most definitely, if there is an area you can misuse or abuse, because if there is no regulation or if there is no law, cyber criminals will use it. They will also find it in a way. And of course, there's always the proof of what's a deepfake and not a deepfake. And maybe, I don't know, we would have to go into blockchain or similar things of like, I would suggest every news outlet, which is a credible news outlet, has to hash their product. So if I'm watching it, and you know that, remember from cyber warfare, the famous picture with the soldier. If you look half at the picture, the soldier is pointing a weapon to a person on its knees, and if you look at the other half of the picture, it's a soldier handing a bottle of water to the same person. So it really depends. So I would suggest the news outlets should have or must use some blockchain solution, of course.
Sorry for interrupting you, but we are actually losing you. So yeah, but I mean that's great. That's a great idea. I completely agree with the hint. So there are no questions from the audience. It seems so. If there are any, I'm sure they will write you an email or try to contact you any other way. So yes, thank you very much for your presentation. I would like to